you're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, with us today is Alan Dershowitz.
Yep.
And where's the birthday music?
Oh, yeah, we need the birthday music because we understand
Well,
somebody had a great
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Alan.
We love you. I hope you had a great birthday. What did you do on your birthday?
Wonderful. I had my granddaughter and her boyfriend. We had my sons were here. My wife, and we just had a good family time. We had a good time, and we put aside the woes of the world. Of course, you can't put them aside. You read about these poor hostages who were murdered in cold blood. People walked up to them. They were tied up, put a gun to their head, and just pulled the trigger against a one-armed man who was an American, a woman. How do you do that? How do human beings look at a person in the eye and say, we're about to kill you, and put a bullet in your head?
And there's no profit. They weren't given extra money to kill him. They just killed him just to kill him.
And they're supposed to be in the middle of some ceasefire talks. I mean, how could anybody, not that you would ever trust them, but it is so disgraceful. I'll tell you, I cried. I was so sad because I feel like we got to know these hostages so well, and you were rooting they'd get back out okay.
Who do you think that President Biden put the blame on? Netanyahu. He's not doing enough. Just total nonsense. He's doing everything he can do. You don't give up a country's security. You don't allow Hamas to remain in power. He did what he can do. But I want to take it out on the president of Wesleyan University. Has an op-ed in today's Times, which is one of the most hypocritical things I've ever seen. He's welcoming more protests on campus. He says they're good things. Can you imagine if these protests were being conducted by racists, calling for the lynching of black students, calling for the rape of people on campus? Do you think he would say, let's have more of them, free speech? As far as I'm concerned, these Hamas demonstrations are Ku Klux Klan. They are Nazi youth. They are supporting murder and rape and beheadings. And yet this president tries to fool his students, and he did a good job because I got an email from one of his alumni. Oh, it's a free speech. It's not free speech. It's free speech for me, but not for thee. He would never, for example, even allow an anti-abortion protest on his campus. He wouldn't allow it. He would figure out some way of saying, that's violent speech. It's just the most, and that's what happened at Harvard. President Gay said, free speech, She discovered free speech when people were calling for genocide against the Jews. She didn't know anything about free speech before. So it's going to get worse on these campuses because these presidents of universities, even though several have been fired, they're not getting any better. And I think that trustees of Wesleyan have to look at the president of Wesleyan for making that outrageous statement that he supports free speech. He doesn't support free speech. He only supports free speech if it's against Jews and in favor of Hamas.
Alan, this is Pete King. First of all, happy birthday to you. I have a very basic question. Though, if the murder, the assassinations of these six people, innocent people, if that doesn't knock out this whole argument of moral equivalency, what is going to? Even today, President Biden is blaming Netanyahu. He said Netanyahu's not doing enough, as if these are two equal parties. It's like two friends are having a fight. We have to decide how we resolve it. One is good, one is evil. When is that message going to get across and break through academia, break through the political world?
It's not getting across because they don't give a damn about morality. It's morality for me, but not for thee. They'll claim all kinds of morality on one side, but then they'll say, but they're under occupation. Don't you understand? They're under occupation. They can do anything. They can rape. They can behead. They can murder. That's what these kids are saying on college campuses. They interviewed some of them. They were saying, nothing wrong with what happened on October 7th. It's an occupation, and you can resist occupation. They're making it sound like, they're abolitionists resisting slavery. There's a dispute over, first of all, Gaza wasn't occupied. There wasn't a single Israeli or a single Jew in Gaza. And there was a ceasefire in place. And then they went and they murdered 1,200 people and kidnapped 1,200. Where's the moral equivalence? There's no moral equivalence. Our entire sense of morality is being thrown out of the window by this disproportionate support for the Palestinians. The Palestinians are the least deserving political group in the world for statehood. They were offered it 7 times. They turned it down. They used terrorism. What about the Kurds? What about the Uyghurs? What about all the people who deserve? What about the people who are starving today in Darfur, in places in Africa? African leaders don't care about them. Black lives don't matter if they're taken by black people.
Alan, wasn't Abiy Ibn who said
Palestinians by white people?
It wasn't Abiy Ibn who said the Palestinians never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity?
Yeah, and they don't know how to take yes for an answer. But I want to hear from the black leaders. I want to hear from Sharpton. Why is he not saying a word about Darfur?
Yeah.
Why is Barack Obama, who hasn't said a word as far as I know about these murdered hostages? Why isn't he talking about what's going on?
It goes beyond that. I really, on my Saturday morning breakfast, I really came out and really was, I just couldn't take it anymore. I said, look what happened in Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, all these women, they have no rights anymore.
Yeah,
where is the women's rights movement?
Right, silent.
Yeah. And environmentalists, this problem in the Red Sea could be 4 times worse than the Exxon Valdez. Where is the environmentalist? Nothing.
No, it's all about left. It's all about left and right. If you're on the right, nothing is right. If you're on the left, everything is correct.
President Biden has made so many mistakes. I have nothing against him, but he has made so many mistakes. And you know what I really was upset about? When we do the calculation, 500,000 Russians and Ukrainians have died because of the stupidity and the bad moves that he made on Afghanistan. We gave Afghanistan to China, and Putin says, well, how about me? I want to take Ukraine.
Look, I never had anything against Biden. He was my friend. I met him in 1980. We've had meals together. We've talked together. I have something against him now. When he speaks at the Democratic Convention and says that the thugs, the Hitler Youth outside, have some good points, when he says that, I have it against him. When he blames Netanyahu and says he's not doing enough, you don't butt in on another country's national security concerns. Netanyahu knows a lot about what's going on in the Philadelphia corridor and what would happen if they allowed Hamas troops to come back there. Than President Biden did when he was vacationing on the beach. He comes off the beach and he says, oh, Netanyahu's not doing enough. No, I have something against him at this point.
By the way, Professor Dershowitz, Israeli officials are coming out.
500,000 deaths.
Yeah.
Russians and Ukrainians and Israelis are on President Biden's shoulders.
Well, and that's
right?
I agree, John.
Go out.
Well, John, you could say maybe October 7th wouldn't have happened. A lot of things wouldn't have happened.
October 7th wouldn't have happened.
I agree. It's
we
weakness.
gave Iran so much money they had nothing to do with it. They hired all the Houthis.
And when Trump was in, they had Arab states actually signing peace agreements with Israel.
Right. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's why October 7th occurred.
Yes.
In an attempt to try to prevent Israel and Saudi Arabia from signing an agreement. And it's working.
Yep.
The tragedy of October 7th is going to be repeated over and over and over again because it's working. It's turning America against Israel. It today turned Great Britain against Israel. Great Britain announced it will restrict some defense shipments to Israel. It's turning the UN. It's turning the International Criminal Court.
And by the way, there are some Democrats today saying the same thing, that maybe Kamala Harris may start being selective on what weapons. But before I let you go, also, Professor Dershowitz, today some Israeli officials came out and they said what Biden said was, quote, remarkable and dangerous. I mean, they threw our ally under the bus.
The same people speaking for Joe Biden are speaking for Kamala. What makes anybody think that anything's going to change?
Yeah, and that's the sad thing, John.
No, she's going to be worse. She's going to be worse than he was. He has a place in his heart for Israel. I don't think she has a place in her heart for Israel. I have never seen it. I've never seen it in her husband's heart as well. Certainly not in his stepdaughter's heart. And I don't have any faith that Kamala Harris will be as supportive of Israel as Joe Biden has been, which has not been recently very supportive of at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Professor Dershowitz, thank you very much.
May your birthday present be peace.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much.